Here and Dean Shaheen, you didn't say anything yesterday. Do you need to further discuss anything?
No, sir, but I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. Casey, you want to say anything? Okay. Tom, where were you yesterday?
I was covering home front, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. You don't want to say anything either?
I have nothing to add at this moment.
You want to plead the fifth? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Probably the best way to proceed.
Okay. I'm just checking. All right. Speaker Jones, you ready? Okay, we're going to hear House Bill 801.
You should have a committee substitute, LC 336377S. The House Bill 801 refines the Hope Scholarship to reward Georgia College students for taking rigorous science, technology, engineering, and math courses. It specifically and most primarily directs the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia to select bachelor-level science, technology, engineering, and math courses to receive extra weight for purposes of calculating the Hope Scholarship GPA while a student attends college. The identified core and major courses must be determined to be academically rigorous and required by or lead to jobs in high-demand STEM fields. I do believe that this initiative will encourage young people to develop the 21st century skills demanded in STEM fields and make Georgia even more competitive in attracting high-tech companies to locate and expand in our state. I do want to give credit where credit is due. I certainly drew my inspiration from Governor Deal's earlier efforts on HOPE, and in particular the Strategic Industries Workforce Grants, which reward students entering high-demand programs offered by state technical colleges. Similarly, this legislation will encourage students attending public and private colleges in Georgia to enter STEM fields in which Georgia has a workforce shortage. Under the legislation, a student completing a class selected for additional weight would receive 0.5 added to his or her grade for purposes of calculating the Hope Scholarship GPA, not their college GPA, but their Hope GPA. No extra weight would be given for an A or an F. And I came up with the weighting. It is completely consistent with the current Hope weighting in high school for AP, IB, and dual enrollment classes in high school. As an example, the regents could select, for example, calculus, which is a rigorous class required by many of these STEM fields to qualify for extra weight because the demanding courses are required, as I mentioned, for many of these fields, including healthcare. What the initiative is intended to do is to encourage students to shoulder the additional academic risk of losing the Hope Scholarship that is inherent in demanding academic courses. I think this was heightened when we created the Zell Miller Scholarship in 2011. Prior to the Zell Miller Scholarship, a student making a B in high school did not jeopardize their Hope GPA and qualifying for the Hope Scholarship. Now, with the requirement that a student appropriately maintain a 3.4, every B that a student earns jeopardizes that Zell Miller Scholarship as well. I intentionally selected the regents because they have jurisdiction over all 29 colleges, so they can make sure that students throughout the system have these opportunities, and they set up the curriculum or they direct the different colleges in their missions. I will say that Georgia has a history of targeting greater rigor through extra weights, which were added to AP and IB classes in 2007 and dual enrollment classes in 2014. That is the second section. I did not mention the first section, which is a slight tweak to the rigor courses that are required in high school to qualify for HOPE, and it adds computer science as one of those that the Department of Education could include for rigor. The last section clarifies the factor rate and the HOPE award rate to assure it remains dynamic and current with changes in consolidations, mission changes, and tuition while remaining within the lottery resources available. I worked with the governor's office on that. I'll just use an example. We have several colleges that through mergers are not staying up to date with the tuition reimbursement rate, as well as our technical colleges and others. So this will just keep them consistent while still remaining within the factor, within the available revenues. I would be happy to take questions at this time.
Okay. Anybody have a question? What's your number? 3. Okay.
Speaker Pro Tem, this factor, I understand how you came about it. Was there any consideration of having a different factor based on the rigor inside some of our institutions? We have some that are much more rigorous than others. Some have been in the news lately.
Well, I think as a body, we have grappled with this issue. I know I've actually been thinking about this for the last couple years, and we do have students who transfer, and we have students who do not have access or are not admitted to other colleges but want to go into these fields. So I did not choose to go that route. I think it's very difficult to compare among the institutions, but for example, calculus is pretty similar calculus in Armstrong University or Georgia Tech or Kennesaw. And I will mention, I don't have the figures yet, but this would also apply to a few courses that are offered at our technical colleges. They do have some classes that will articulate to our four-year colleges. An example would be anatomy and others. So, but those courses utilize the HOPE scholarship, not the grant. I will also mention that I looked at, from the Department of Economic Development and Labor Department in Georgia, at the top 15 fields over the next 10 years, the 15 fields that will have the highest shortages. And of that require a 4-year or higher postgraduate degree, of those 15, 10 were in healthcare, and 5 were in primarily computer science and secondarily engineering. Those programs, with the exception of engineering, are offered at most of our colleges, and in engineering at, if you include Mercer and Kennesaw, yes, at 4, at least 4 in Georgia. But this was intended to be a reward and to encourage students, but certainly not to preclude them from majoring anything. One can go to get a physician's assistant degree, postgraduate degree at Georgia Regents, and have an English undergraduate. But in the School of Arts and Sciences, most schools, if not all, you're required to take at least 1 or 2 science sequences. A student might choose to get their prerequisites with a liberal arts degree that's non-science or mathematics, and then go on to graduate school. Just as an aside, my son was a finance major and pre-med when he was in college, and chose to use as electives to prepare himself for postgraduate work.
Any other questions? Okay. I know we have some folks, I know the Regents, you want to make a comment or a statement? Once you come to the mic and identify yourself, you just stay there. Come to this right mic on your side. So.
I'll be brief.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Chairman, Roland Downs, Board of Regents. The Chancellor and the author of the bill have been in constant contact and communication on this measure, and so we're very supportive of the measure and our piece of the Section 2 as it relates to working with these other stakeholders on identifying the rigorous courses. Our folks looked at the bill late last week and are very supportive.
Okay. Any questions for Rollins? Okay.
Point out to the members of the committee and the audience that
You want to use the mic, please?
have changed since the original introduction. There were more substantial changes and additions that the governor is also supportive of. And the first was that on let's see here, line 59, the bill does direct the Student Finance Commission to provide a biennial report to the higher education committees, including the House, on the fields that were identified as high demand, the associated workforce shortages in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and health care, the courses identified as academically rigorous and their relevance to such fields, and any other pertinent information. I think this, to me, was long-term to make sure there's some transparency and frankly, accountability to make sure that it remains focused on those items. And then second, it does authorize the governor to convene a task force to identify high-demand fields, associated workforce shortages, and recommend initial courses to receive additional weight. But clearly he would be working, I'm sure, with the regents and economic development and private institutions and others in coming up with that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have Amy Lancaster from Metro Atlanta Chamber wants to make a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, my name is Amy Lancaster. I'm Director of Workforce Development at the Metro Atlanta Chamber, and we are very excited about this bill that Speaker Pro Tem has presented, that it will help encourage more students to take on some of those more rigorous courses to help them be more marketable. In the next 10 years in Georgia, we're expected to have a need for over 160,000 healthcare, computer, and engineering occupations. That's between replacement demand of those baby boomers that are retiring and new demand. Just in computer science jobs alone, 35,400. So we've got a lot of jobs that will need to be filled. In the most recent Metro Atlanta Workforce Trends Report, again, that was at the state level. This is at the Metro Atlanta level. Between 2007 and 2013, the computer technology industry grew by 68% compared to 29% in the nation. So we've got a huge momentum here, and if we want to maintain that, we need to be able to fill those jobs. Those jobs on average earn $73,400 per year. That's a pretty good livable wage, I think. One of the key things that report also showed that the skills, the top technical skills, no matter what industry, were SQL and Oracle, both coding languages. So how can we make those types of courses that are more rigorous, more easier for students that are not in those technical fields to try to get training in? The Federal Reserve Bank of New York did a study on the unemployment and underemployment rates of recent college graduates. Over the last 20 years, the underemployment rate of recent college graduates has stayed steady at 33%. 33%. That's significant. We're the fourth largest university system in the country, and 33% on average of our graduates are underemployed. So what jobs are they taking if they're not taking the ones that they're being trained for? They're taking jobs that don't require a bachelor's degree, that are either low skill requirements, low wage, or part-time, and taking jobs away from other people that do not have a bachelor's degree at all. The underemployment is significantly proportionate to the degree. So when you have the higher skilled, high technical areas like engineering, education, math, and healthcare, the underemployment rates are much lower. But in liberal arts, social sciences, hospitality and leisure and communications, those rates of underemployment are much higher. So providing a way to encourage students to either take electives or minor in these more technical fields fields helps them to be much more marketable in the current work environment that we have here in Georgia. So we are very supportive of this type of program and appreciate the innovative approach to helping our students get the skills that they need.
All right, thank you. And now Tino, is it Tino Matella? All right, Technology Association of Georgia.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. I'm president of the Technology Association of Georgia, which is actually the largest technology trade association in North America with 33,000 members. And we are very supportive of House Bill 801. And, you know, part of the reason, just to kind of take a different slant on this, is we have, with our 33,000 members, we spend a lot of time surveying and asking them, you know, what are their needs, what are their challenges. There are well over 10,000 jobs open right now in the state of Georgia in the STEM field, and that's only going to grow. So what happens with that? Some of our chief information officers tell us it's taking up to 6 months to fill these jobs, and if they don't fill them here, and the company has pressure to fill the jobs, they're going to fill them somewhere else, whether it be out of state or out of country. And you know, we spend a lot of time in America talking about how much we outsource, but there's a reality there that we don't have enough kids getting in the field. And TAG spends a lot of time trying to encourage the K through 12 to go into these fields. But once they get in there, we want to make sure that a couple of things. First of all, that they at least have a taste of some of these STEM curriculums, even if they don't decide to major in it. Because if you have you take a class, pass a class in computer programming, computer science, in today's generation and the next generation, that's going to be important for kids to have anyways. They don't have to be a computer programmer to need those type of skills. But also, we see, and we don't have the exact statistics, but that kids that start out, and I have a couple anecdotal cases because I have a couple people that are on my staff that started out in the more rigorous classes, and then they had to move to a more general class to maintain their Hope Scholarship. So there's a bit of unintended consequences that we need more kids getting in the field, but we're also making it difficult for them to pursue careers in that if they want to maintain their Hope Scholarship. So this weighting that President Pro Tem had created, we're very supportive of, and we think it's a creative, innovative way to get more kids into the space, hopefully give them a taste, and hopefully allow them to graduate. Our counterpart from the Chamber already gave some stats, but even if you think of the information security industry, that's the number one area that the CIOs are going to be and CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers, are going to be spending money on this year. And there's a projection that there will be a 37% increase in the number of information security analysts needed by 2020. In Georgia this year, in 2014, there were 74,000 plus IT jobs posted, which is a 32% increase from 2010. So you have less kids getting in the field, difficult to stay in the field, and then you have more of a demand to become part of the field and stay in the field. So we very much support this, and happy to answer any questions.
I don't see any questions, so thank you. Anybody else want to say anything? Last chance. Senator again, you want to say anything? I've never seen you. Okay.
Hi, Coach.
Okay. Are you lost?
Just thought I'd come see what you guys were up to.
Okay.
Making sure y'all are taking care of good education opportunities
Okay.
around the state.
Okay. I'm going to cut your mic off now. Thank you.
You asked.
All right. All right. The mood of the committee. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to pass, Mr. Chairman.
I hear a motion. I hear a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay. Bill passes. Thank you. Okay. Next meeting will probably be same time next week. I think we have another bill coming our way, and it should be ready by then. So we'll probably see y'all next week at 1 o'clock. Yeah, we do have a joint meeting tomorrow with the Senate. Where is that? Okay. Everybody's gotten notified on it, so that's Senator Fran Miller is having that meeting, so we'll all be together with Fran. So.